When Freddie Mercury stormed out of Michael Jackson's home studio in 1983, he left behind what could have been the greatest collaboration in music history. But what caused the legendary Queen frontman to abandon three half-finished songs with the king of pop? The answer involves a pet llama, creative genius, and one of the most bizarre studio sessions ever recorded. It was supposed to be musical magic. Two of the world's biggest superstars, both at the peak of their powers, working together in Michael Jackson's state-of-the-art home studio in Encino, California. Instead, it became music history's strangest missed opportunity, all because of a four-legged furry studio crasher named Louie. The year was 1983, and both Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury were living in completely different worlds of success, yet somehow orbiting the same musical universe. Michael had just released Thriller 8 months earlier in November 1982, and the album wasn't just breaking records, it was obliterating them. Billie Jean had topped the charts for 7 consecutive weeks. Beat It was dominating rock radio stations, and the Thriller music video had transformed MTV from a niche cable channel into a cultural phenomenon. Every day brought new milestones. Radio stations couldn't stop playing his songs. Record stores couldn't keep the album in stock. Michael Jackson wasn't just famous. He was a global obsession, the kind of celebrity that happens maybe once in a generation. Meanwhile, Queen was taking a much-needed break after their explosive Hot Space tour, giving Freddie the perfect opportunity to explore his solo ambitions. The band had been touring relentlessly since 1973, and the pressure of constant collaboration, constant compromise, and constant group decision-making had left Freddie yearning for complete creative control. He wanted to experiment with sounds that might not fit Queen's rock identity, disco influences, dance beats, and the kind of theatrical pop that was becoming increasingly popular. But what brought these two legends together wasn't business deals, record label pressure, or marketing strategies. It was genuine mutual admiration that had been building for years through a series of backstage encounters and shared musical moments that had never been publicized. Michael Jackson had been a devoted Queen fan since the mid-1970s, long before Thriller made him the biggest star on the planet. He would regularly attend their concerts at the Forum in Los Angeles, often arriving in disguise to avoid the screaming fans who had begun following his every move. These weren't just casual celebrity appearances. Michael would study every aspect of Queen's performances, taking mental notes on their staging, their crowd interaction, and especially Freddie's commanding presence. "He kept coming to see us," Freddie recalled in a 1983 interview with Lisa Robinson, his voice carrying genuine warmth when discussing those early encounters. "And then we started talking, and in those days, I think he would actually go out. He'd go out and have dinners. I remember going to dinner with him." Those dinners were rare glimpses into Michael's pre-Thriller life, when he could still move through the world with relative normalcy, before his fame reached such stratospheric levels that simple restaurant meals became impossible. The friendship was mutual and immediate. During one backstage visit documented by Rolling Stone, when a reporter asked Michael, "Can I tell my viewers that Michael Jackson is a Queen fan?" he replied without hesitation, "I'm a Freddie Mercury fan." In fact, it was Michael who had suggested that Queen release Another One Bites the Dust as a single, a decision that would give the band one of their biggest hits and prove that the shy young man from Gary, Indiana, had serious musical instincts. So when Freddie decided to work on his first solo album, Mr. Bad Guy, collaborating with Michael seemed like the most natural thing in the world. Both were perfectionists, both were theatrical performers, and both understood the pressure of carrying entire projects on their shoulders. The plan was ambitious, 3 original songs that would showcase both their voices. There Must Be More to Life Than This, State of Shock, and Victory. Each track designed to blend Freddie's rock opera sensibilities with Michael's pop innovation. Michael opened his Encino home studio to Freddie in early 1983, and for the first few sessions, everything seemed perfect. The two musical geniuses clicked immediately in the studio, feeding off each other's creative energy in ways that surprised everyone present. Freddie was already committed to a heavy schedule, and it was left as a "let's get in touch soon" job, recalled Peter Freestone, Freddie's longtime personal assistant, who was present during the sessions. Freddie was impressed with the session as well as with Michael's attitude to work. But Michael Jackson's attitude to work included something that Freddie Mercury had never encountered before: an open-door policy for exotic pets. Michael's love affair with unusual animals was already well known in 1983. His Encino home was practically a private zoo, housing over 50 different species including giraffes, alligators, exotic birds, elephants, apes, tigers, monkeys, snakes, and lizards. But his latest addition was a llama named Louie, and Michael had grown so attached to the animal that he couldn't bear to leave him outside during recording sessions. The first time Louie appeared in the studio, Freddie was merely surprised. Here was this woolly, curious creature wandering around the mixing board while two of music's biggest stars tried to create art. It was odd, certainly, but Freddie Mercury had seen plenty of odd things in his career. Michael's bringing his pet llama into the studio every day, Freddie would later explain to his manager. At first it seemed manageable, just another Michael Jackson eccentricity, like his single sequined glove or his moonwalking. But as the sessions continued, Louie became more than just an occasional distraction. The llama seemed to believe he was part of the creative process, wandering freely around the studio, occasionally making noise during takes, and demanding attention from both superstars when they were trying to focus on perfecting their harmonies. Michael, for his part, saw nothing wrong with Louie's presence. In fact, he seemed to enjoy having his beloved pet nearby while he worked. I think for the people that really knew Michael on a deeper level and saw his connection to the animals, there's no doubt about the compassion and the care and the sensitivity that he had towards his animals, his zoo trainer Mark Biancaniello would later say. But what Michael saw as natural and comforting, Freddie began to see as increasingly absurd. Here they were, trying to create sophisticated pop music, and there was a llama investigating the microphone cables. The breaking point came during what should have been a crucial vocal session for There Must Be More to Life Than This. Michael and Freddie were working on their harmonies, trying to blend their distinctly different vocal styles into something magical, when Louie decided to make his presence known in the most dramatic way possible. Details of exactly what Louie did that day remain mysterious. The few people present have been diplomatically vague. But whatever happened, it was enough to push Freddie Mercury over the edge. Joe Burt, who played fretless bass on Freddie's Mr. Bad Guy album, was present during the sessions and later told the New York Post, "I think the last straw was when Michael brought his pet llama into the studio. I think Freddie sort of took umbrage to that." Taking umbrage was putting it mildly. Freddie Mercury, a man who had performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people, who had conquered stages from Madison Square Garden to Wembley Stadium, was completely done with studio sessions that included livestock. The phone call that ended one of music history's most promising collaborations came that afternoon. Queen's manager Jim Miami Beach was in his office when his phone rang. On the other end was a frantic Freddie Mercury. "Miami, dear," Freddie said, using his characteristic term of endearment. "Can you get on over here? You've got to get me out of this studio." Beach was confused. Everything had been going so well with the Michael Jackson sessions. The early demos sounded incredible. Both artists were excited about the project, and this collaboration could have been career-defining for both of them. "Why?" Beach asked. "What's wrong?" Freddie's response became legendary in music industry circles. "Because I'm recording with a llama. Michael's bringing his pet llama into the studio every day, and I'm really not used to it, and I've had enough, and I want to get out." Beach later recalled the moment in the 2012 documentary Freddie Mercury, The Great Pretender. And even decades later, you could hear the amusement in his voice. The idea that a collaboration between two of music's biggest legends had been derailed by a llama was almost too absurd to believe. But Freddie was absolutely serious. He wanted out, and he wanted out immediately. Within hours, Freddie Mercury had packed up his things and left Michael Jackson's studio forever. 3 partially completed songs remained on the multi-track tapes, songs that could have changed the course of both their careers. The aftermath was handled with typical musical industry diplomacy. Both Michael and Freddie publicly attributed the end of their collaboration to scheduling conflicts and busy commitments. Neither mentioned Louie the Llama in interviews. But privately, the split revealed fundamental differences in how the two superstars approached their craft. Michael Jackson, despite his perfectionism, was comfortable with chaos and unpredictability in his creative environment. His home studio was an extension of his living space, and if that meant sharing it with exotic animals, so be it. Freddie Mercury, on the other hand, needed control and focus when creating music. He could handle wild parties, outrageous costumes, and rock and roll excess, but when it came time to record, he wanted professionalism and attention to detail. He doesn't like coming out at all, Freddie later said about Michael. He says whatever he wants, he can get at home. Anything he wants, he just buys it. That's not me, but that's his bag. I wouldn't do that. I would be bored to death. I go out every night. I hate staying in one room for too long anyway. The philosophical differences extended beyond pets and lifestyle. Michael was a meticulous perfectionist who would spend hours on single vocal lines, building tracks layer by layer in isolation. Freddie was more spontaneous, feeding off energy and momentum, preferring to capture magic in real time rather than construct it piece by piece. Despite the abrupt end to their studio relationship, both artists found ways to salvage their work. Michael took State of Shock and re-recorded it with Mick Jagger for the Jackson 5's 1984 Victory album. The song became a moderate hit, but fans and critics always wondered what it might have sounded like with Freddie's operatic voice instead of Jagger's rock growl. Freddie, meanwhile, turned There Must Be More to Life Than This into a solo piece for his Mr. Bad Guy album. The song showcased his incredible range and became a fan favorite, but the missing Michael Jackson harmonies left an obvious void in the arrangement. The third song, Victory, remained in vault limbo for decades, existing only as rough demos and work tapes that occasionally surfaced in bootleg collections. But the story of the Michael Jackson-Freddie Mercury collaboration didn't end with Louie the Llama. Decades after both legends had passed away, producers decided to resurrect their work for a new generation. In 2014, more than 30 years after the original sessions, Queen released Queen Forever, a compilation album that included a fully realized version of There Must Be More to Life Than This, featuring both Michael's and Freddie's vocals. Producer William Orbit painstakingly reconstructed the duet from the original 1983 recordings. When I first played it in my studio, I opened a trove of delights provided by the greatest of musicians, Orbit told Rolling Stone. Hearing Michael Jackson's vocals was stirring. So vivid, so cool and poignant, it was like he was in the studio singing live. With Freddie's vocal solo on the mixing desk, my appreciation for his gift was taken to an even higher level. The posthumous collaboration became an instant classic, giving fans a taste of what might have been. The two voices blended beautifully, Freddie's theatrical power complementing Michael's smooth precision in ways that seemed almost supernatural. But listening to the finished product only makes the original Llama incident more tragic. Here were two artists who were clearly meant to work together, whose voices created magic when combined, and it had all fallen apart because of a well-meaning pet. The Llama story became legendary in music circles, passed down through generations of industry insiders as a cautionary tale about the importance of professional studio environments. It's been referenced in documentaries, books, and countless interviews as one of music history's strangest what-if moments. Some fans and critics have speculated that the Llama was just a convenient excuse, that deeper creative or personal differences drove the two apart. There were rumors about conflicts over Michael's drug use policies, he was notoriously anti-drug, versus Freddie's more permissive attitude towards studio substances. Others suggested that their different approaches to perfectionism, Michael's meticulous overdubbing versus Freddie's preference for live energy, made collaboration genuinely difficult. But Joe Burt, who was actually present during the sessions, has always maintained that the Llama really was the final straw. I think Freddie sort of took umbrage to that, he said, and his tone suggested there was no deeper meaning to decode. The truth is probably simpler than conspiracy theories suggest. Sometimes creative partnerships don't work out, and sometimes the reasons are as mundane as incompatible working environments. The fact that a Llama was involved just makes the story more memorable. What makes the Michael Jackson-Freddie Mercury collaboration particularly poignant is how much both artists respected each other's work. Even after the studio sessions ended, they remained on good terms personally. Michael continued attending Queen concerts when possible, and Freddie spoke warmly about Michael's talent in interviews. "I'm a Freddie Mercury fan," Michael had said, and that admiration never wavered. Similarly, Freddie always acknowledged Michael's revolutionary impact on pop music, even if he couldn't work in a studio with Michael's pets. The story also highlights how different the music industry was in 1983. Two superstars could casually decide to collaborate without armies of lawyers, marketing committees, or strategic planning sessions. Michael simply invited Freddie over to his house. They set up in his home studio and started creating music. That kind of spontaneous artistic collaboration became increasingly rare as both artists became even bigger global phenomena. By the late 1980s, Michael's projects required massive planning and coordination, while Freddie was dealing with the early stages of the illness that would eventually take his life. The Llama incident represents the last moment when such a casual collaboration was possible between artists of their stature. Today, Louie the Llama is remembered as one of music history's most influential animals. His brief studio appearances prevented what could have been the greatest duet album ever recorded, featuring two of the most talented vocalists who ever lived. But perhaps that's fitting. Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury were both larger-than-life personalities who lived extraordinary lives. The fact that their collaboration was derailed by something as surreal as a studio llama somehow seems appropriate for two artists who specialized in the impossible and the magical. The three songs they worked on together, "There Must Be More to Life Than This," "State of Shock," and "Victory," exist in various forms across different albums and compilations. Fans can piece together glimpses of what their full collaboration might have sounded like. But the complete Michael Jackson-Freddie Mercury album that might have been remains one of music's greatest lost treasures, a victim of interspecies creative differences and one llama's desire to be part of rock history. In the end, Louis succeeded where many music executives failed. He managed to break up a supergroup before they even released their first song. Not bad for a day's work in the studio. As for Michael and Freddie, they went on to create separate masterpieces that defined the 1980s. Michael's Thriller became the best-selling album of all time, while Queen's Live Aid performance became legendary. Both achieved heights that might not have been possible if they'd been focused on collaboration instead of individual artistry. But fans will always wonder, what if Louie the Llama had been content to stay outside the studio? What if Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury had completed those three songs and gone on to record a full album together? We'll never know, and somehow that makes the story even more perfect. If this incredible tale of two legends and one scene-stealing llama entertained you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more untold stories from music history's wildest moments. What do you think would have happened if Michael and Freddie had completed their collaboration? Have you ever had a pet completely derail an important project? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you know someone who loves both Queen and Michael Jackson, share this video with them so they can learn about music history's most expensive llama interruption. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed discovering how one animal changed the course of music history forever. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for another incredible story of what happens when legends collide.